First of all, though, is it right to raise the minimum wage? At the moment, those over the age of 21 get £11.44 an hour, but it's expected to go up by more than 6% to at least £12.21p an hour. And that's worth £1,400 a year for a full-time worker, or £116 a month. And while that's good news for some of the lowest paid, businesses are warning it could do more harm than good, with claims that this could put them off hiring new staff, especially if, as we've discussed, they have to increase national insurance contributions too. At the moment, there are different rates for younger workers too, so those under the age of 21 can legally be paid a lower rate of just under £9 an hour. It's thought the Chancellor will increase this too to around £10 an hour, which is a 16% increase. So what do we make of all of this, panel? Let's start with you, Ayesha. So this will make a considerable difference, won't it? Over £100 a month per lower paid worker. That's going to make a difference to what you can eat, to getting a new pair of shoes. I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a really, really big deal. And I'm really glad that this is happening. I think successive governments have actually accepted the need to have a national minimum wage, a living wage. I remember when Labour introduced it, it was one of the great policy introductions that Tony Blair introduced. And I remember before that was introduced, the CBI and many other people said, you know, Britain will lose millions and millions. In fact, the big attack line from the Conservatives was that this was going to be a tax on jobs and that loads of jobs were going to get lost. And actually now, George Osborne increased the national minimum wage. Every government now sees it as the humane thing to do. And look, £12.21 is still not a lot to live on if you're... Look, the three of us are so blessed with what we do. We earn amazing amounts of money to come, and our work is doing this. We're so lucky. And I just feel that people have had a really punishing time. So I think this is a really good thing.
Carole, how do you feel about it?
No, I don't think it is, because I'm just reading what businesses are saying, and particularly what the hospitality industry is saying, which was hammered during COVID, now going to be hammered again, because what they're saying is they can't afford to take on other people. And what they're saying is they're going to have to pass on these increases. You just read out a figure there, £1,000 a year. They're going to have to pass that on to consumers, which isn't fair. And I always think it's a mystery to me why you can have unemployed people on £12.12p an hour and employed people on 11.44, which it is now. So, you know, if it's going to mean people are out of jobs, and businesses are saying it will mean fewer jobs, they're also talking about manufacturers will now outsource their manufacturing to companies like China and Taiwan, where labour is cheaper, rather than doing it here. So if it's going to do all that, it's not a clever move. And it won't help the poorest people in this country, because the poorest people are relying on benefits. So it's not going to help the very poorest in society. I think it's a mistake at a time when we're supposed to be skint.
Not sure that's entirely fair. What we're really talking about here is not the poorest people who are relying on benefits, but the poorest people who are working and who might be on 0 hours contracts, which makes it almost impossible to budget carefully and properly, because you don't know what you're going to earn, whether you're going to be committed to work or not.
This is a humane thing to do. Remember, before the national minimum wage was introduced, same arguments. Business said millions of jobs are going to go. We're not going to employ people. That didn't happen.
I mean,
let's see if it
I
does
suppose
now.
if we think about, you know, our caller earlier whose daughter has got 2 florist shops, and then you wonder, you're trying to keep a small business afloat. That's very difficult to do.
Remember, that money will come out of your tax bill as well.
But you're wondering, will that mean that she won't expand to 3 florist shops? Will it mean that she has to lay off somebody who's currently working in one of the 2 shops that she's running? If you look at it, I mean, I'm speaking, you can tell this is from the heart, as the daughter of a man who had basically a one-man band business. My dad had an underwear business with a warehouse, and there were a couple of people packing in the warehouse and somebody doing the books, and my dad, that was all. And so when something like this happened, it had quite dramatic consequences.
It's about growth and expansion, Vanessa. And you can't grow and expand if you're having to pay more wages all the time. And also it affects training. I was reading something yesterday, it says that people who train new employees won't be able to afford to do that now. If they'd come in at a lower wage, they would, and now they won't get that kind of training. So I think people, for every pound that they're going to get extra, they're going to lose out in terms of jobs. I just don't
accept this apocalyptic, you know, it feels like, I feel like, you know, we're in a situation where nothing can be done. You know, every idea that's put forward, it's kind of slammed down. This is the right thing to do. And by the way, when people that don't have a lot of money get more money, they spend that money, so it goes into the economy. So it is actually good for the general economy.
You're not accepting the fact that it is, if an employer has to pay out more to his employees, it's going to push up the costs of whatever it is producing. And that affects everyone in the country if costs are pushed up.
Carole, let's see what happens. Remember,
well, you keep saying that.
But we do.
If it does happen.
But just remember, when ahead of the national minimum wage being introduced in 1997, everybody said what you said. It was going to be an absolute disaster for the economy, a disaster for jobs. That did not happen. So you know what? Maybe it'll be a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing to let poor people get a little bit more money.
I just think if you're trying to balance the books and you're getting an extra £80 to £100 a month, it is a decisive thing. It can make life just a bit more bearable. And it's, it's the difference between what T.S. Eliot, let's elevate the conversation, what T.S. Eliot called living and partly living. And we want people to live, not partly live. We don't want people to subsist or exist. We want people to live. That's the whole flipping point of life, isn't it?
To have jobs as well.
Let's talk to Frank on the line in Oxford. Hello, Frank. Thanks so much for ringing. Morning.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
Hello.
So what are you thinking about the minimum wage, Frank?
Well, the minimum wage, first of all, I agree that the businesses are going to be hammered. Secondly, whatever you give me as a minimum wage, whether it be £100, £200, whatever, it's a government pay rise as well. Because all they'll do is tax me and they'll take it back again. Thank you very much.
But they don't. But come on, you're at Oxford. We can all do the maths here. You get a bit more, you pay a bit more tax, but you are left with some of it in your pocket. It does, doesn't it? Help you live a more enjoyable or quietly less terrifying life.
You're left with some of it to pay for the bus fares and the increases.
Yes.
But the people on benefits, what are they going to do? They're going to get a benefit increase. They're going to be lifted out of benefits. They're going to pay more tax. They'll be moaning. You're not going to do anything until you change this threshold.
Do you think Ayesha has a point, though? She's saying, look, this was a resounding Labour victory. Why? Because people were so dramatically disenchanted with the Tory government, and therefore give them a chance. We're phoning up to bewail the misery of it all. We don't even know what's going to happen yet, do we?
Ayesha has got a perfect point, and I totally agree with her. If I go to work and they want to give me a pay rise, a living wage, if you like, I totally agree with that. But they should apply that to the people who is getting benefits and give them the same wages I get for doing 40 hours and take off all the benefits. That's wonderful. I agree totally.
Frank, thank you for the contribution. Let's talk to Ian in North Ayrshire. Hello, Ian. Morning.
Good morning, Vanessa.
Hi.
I think it's important that we try and raise the aspirations of those who are unemployed and see an increase in wages as a vision for the future in 2025. We want more people to earn good wages and pay tax so that it helps the poorer people on the ladder. We don't want to push more people into unemployment. And the dyed blonde lady on your panel, using the lady with the 2 flower shops, the more money that's in the people with the increase, they might well want to buy more flowers and open a 3rd shop. So don't be so dismal, please, lady.
We'll try not to be.
There's a bright future ahead.
Can I just say to you, Ian, as well, you completely negate anything you say by insulting me personally. Dyed blonde. Silly man. Really.
All right, let's move on, Ian. There you are. Consider yourself duly rebuked.
Well,
yes, we don't want to deal in personal remarks.
I mean,
certainly not. All right, let's go to Carrie. I thought that those days were over, didn't you? I thought we didn't do that anymore.
Talk about me. My hair's dyed as well.
As for blonde shaming,
I'll tell you what.
I think it takes more effort, more conscientious application to be a born-again blonde than a real blonde. Anyway, I think we get extra points. And look at all that employment we gave all those hairdressers all these years.
If it wasn't blonde,
all those hairdressers without us, what would they be doing?
Well, the good thing the hairdressers, their juniors will be getting a wage lift now because of the national minimum wage.
Let's go to Carrie on the line in Caerphilly. Hello, Carrie. Thanks for calling. Morning.
Oh, hello. I was just wondering, instead of putting up the minimum wage, would it maybe be an idea to put up the personal tax allowance? Because that hasn't been gone up for so many years, and that would benefit everything, and it would keep costs down. Like inflation wouldn't rise with the standard living wage rising, because you'd be getting the benefit through the personal allowance.
What do you think of that idea?
Yeah, I mean...
Well, it is something that I think governments would like to do in the future. So the tax threshold allowances were frozen under the last government, and this government has said that they're going to continue doing that, I think, for another year or two. So that kind of drags people into a higher level of tax. And I think they haven't raised the personal threshold as well, because it would cost a lot of money.
Yes.
But
Carrie,
I think you make a really good point. I think a lot of people would like that to happen.
Tell me, Carrie, for you personally, how you're feeling about this budget, because that's a very viable suggestion you've just made. But what about you and your own finances, etc.?
Well, I work in education.
Right.
I've worked since I was 16 years old. I'm a support staff, so I'm not a teacher, so my pay rise this year was 2%. I sit in meetings where people are on benefits, are earning far more money than me, and yet they get everything for free as well. You know, they don't pay council tax, they don't pay, for dentists. Where if you're on more money than me and I have to pay for those things, it's really unfair.
Sense of injustice.
Yes,
Ayesha, you can kind of get that completely, can't
Yeah, I mean,
you?
I don't know what Carrie's circumstances are. I mean, that must be very, very frustrating. But what I will say is sometimes there is a narrative that everybody on benefits is living the life, and I just don't think that's true. I think a lot of people are having a really tough time right now.
No, they're not living the life, but as Carrie says, people like her who are working, she's not living the life either. She's not on high wages, but she sees people on benefits earning more.
There's a lot of people, but I just find this kind of... I don't know what Carrie's circumstances. I don't know the people who are on benefits she's talking about. But one of a kind of discourse that I think has really done damage to this country is just pitting everybody against each other. There are many people who are on benefits who would love to work. There's many people on benefits because life dealt them a really bad blow. They had a stroke, they had a back injury, they had something went wrong in their life and they can't work anymore. So I think that, look, there's a small number of people probably taking the mick. I accept that. But on the whole, there's a lot of people where life, dealt them a bad twist of fate and they cannot work now. And I don't like this narrative where we try and paint everybody on benefits as a bad scheming kind of person.
I particularly don't like it when we pitch the young against the old or the old against the young. I don't think that benefits anyone at all. I don't like that. Sectarianism, a horrible thing in general. Let's talk to Derek in Northamptonshire. Hello, Derek. Thanks for ringing. Morning to you.
Good morning to you as well.
What about this budget and what about a minimum wage, an increase?
Well, my immediate thought is that the government appears to be building a foundation, or helping build a foundation, to raise inflation, when the net result will be the cost of living, high as it is, will be going still higher. Could be more unemployment. I mean, a lot of firms will turn to using automated systems, new technology to avoid employing people in the first place because they're becoming too expensive to employ. They may say, well, we'll close down our operation in this country, we'll go abroad and get cheaper.
Yeah. I mean, you could say if a company was contemplating high tech and substituting technology for people, they'd do it anyway, and this isn't going to make much of it happening anyway. It's a kind of inevitable.
I mean, the other night I was trying to watch Rivals on Disney Plus, and there was a problem with the thing. So I called the help desk number. There's no human to speak to. I ended up spending an hour with a chat bot. So that is already happening. I take your point, but companies are already getting rid of human beings. We have to be on an automated service. If we want to bring back people, I'm all for that, but that's not what a lot of companies are doing.
Yeah, I'm not sure this will have an effect in that way.
No, but Derek is right about inflation. This will be a huge problem for the Bank of England, which is fighting to control inflation. And inflation is all about costs going up, and costs will go up as a result of this, and so that will fuel inflation too.
And yet we want to grow the economy, and you grow the economy by people going out and buying flowers at that lady's daughter's florist. I mean, that's the whole thing, isn't it?
Exactly.
That we're trying to give people,
Well,
and also that feel-good factor where you do feel as if you've got a couple of quid in your pocket. Otherwise, it's
and also,
terrifying.
I just think that point you made earlier, Vanessa, is so important. Like, we've talked a lot about the doom and gloom, and there is a lot of doom and gloom. But if you can make sure that some of the lowest paid people who are doing the right thing, they're going out to work, just get a little bit more money to help them live, I think that's a good thing.
Thank you so much for calling. Unfortunately, we have to move on, though. Later.